Good morning. Are you struggling to get your hands back on plane in the downswing and keep them there through impact? If you are, then come back in a moment and I'll show you a good drill to get them back where they need to be. I think one of the most difficult things in this game is getting your hands back down on plane and then keeping them there through impact, not only because of the actual physical act of moving the arms down in the downswing and also waiting long enough to actually get them onto plane, but also because golf as a sport is counterintuitive. You are almost ruled by this need to hit the ball and move the ball along the target line, and both of these needs will lead you to a wrong movement in the downswing, a need to move the hands to the ball and then along the target line, which will move them out away from your body and then even further away in the follow through. Because of the way the golf club works, that means that it's basically you're using it as a lever. As you actually release the golf club into the golf ball, the grip end wants to be moving up in order to get the club head to come down. You want to have the feeling of pulling the club end away from the ball in order to get it onto line. If you start moving your hands out towards the ball to target line, then what's actually happening is that you're not going to be able to get the club head back onto the golf ball. And this is one of the main reasons for a socket, not because of anything other than your intuitive need to first hit the golf ball and then almost push it down the target line. So getting some kind of a drill there to actually help you to get the hands back onto plane and keep them there through impact is obviously a great benefit. And you'll see an awful lot of the top pros, I think Justin Rose is a great example, doing small drills even during a tournament before each shot. So what I try to do is start off with very, very small movements and then kind of build the swing up from there. So if you can imagine taking your address position and then just moving your hands back by turning your shoulders until you're around about the height of the right thigh. You want to have the feeling then of the left hip moving back, the left shoulder moving up, and your arms and hands being pulled through the ball. And by doing that, what you're actually doing is you're actually pulling the club through the target line by moving the left shoulder up. There's no action in the wrist at this stage, although I do like to have the feeling of my left wrist bowing slightly. So by the time I get to a point just outside my left thigh, I have the feeling of the club kind of hanging down and still being slightly behind this lead arm here. So again, I'm starting off, let's move the ball out of the way here. Just move the club back in a straight line till it's opposite the right thigh. And then by moving the hip and the shoulder, I'm pulling the club through and allowing the lead wrist, the left wrist in this case, to bow a little bit. And that will actually give me the feeling of the club staying behind the hands through impact. Back, through, back, through, back, through. Now obviously in the swing, I've hinged my wrists in the backswing as well as my right elbow. So when I drop the club down to this position, I'm not going to have the club actually released at that point, but it will be not quite 90-degree angle. There should be a little bit of release in the wrist angle as you come down there, so you're not going to quite have 90 degrees, that kind of feeling of the club being parallel here. But again, if for the exercise it's quite okay, just take the club back to the right thigh and then bend. And you should have a little bit of bend in the right elbow and you should have a good bend in the right wrist, so the club is more or less parallel. Now obviously to get to this position, that will mean doing the same thing with the hips and the shoulder. I'm getting the left shoulder back out of the way, moving the arms forward, and I've got to release the club immediately. I think a lot of people are trying to kind of hit down and they're actually holding unconsciously this wrist angle, at the same time trying to steer the ball forward, which is kind of pushing the hands out of their plane and also keeping the club face open. So you want to try and get the feeling of, from here, of releasing the wrist angle and the elbow angle immediately, so that the wrist is released and the arm is almost straight when you get outside of the left thigh there. Again, I've got this feeling of the hands bowing. So as I come down, this movement. Again, getting that kind of feeling as I come through. The club comes across and goes around. It's going inside so that the club can release down the target line. Once I have that moving, then I'm going to basically take the club up a little. I don't know if you watched my video a few weeks ago. I was talking about the feeling of there being kind of flight of stairs here, and I'm just kind of take it up from the ground floor up to the first floor, drop it down and release it around the side again. So over and hinge, take it up, drop it down and turn around the side. Up, down, around, up, down, around, up, down, around. Obviously I can increase that, taking it right up to the top, bringing it down and pulling it around. Up, down, around, up, down, around. What's very difficult to see while I'm doing this is what my hands are actually doing during the movement. As the right hand comes down, I have the feeling of the wrist rotating slightly towards the ground, as if the palm of the hand is actually rotating slightly down, then releasing out to the point just outside of the left thigh. What you don't see me doing is any of this. If you look at the position of the right thumb, then I'm dropping it down and turning it a little bit down towards the ground. And then as I come and open up the hips and shoulders, the left thumb is basically coming down, so it's pointing almost at 90 degrees to the target line at that position. I don't want it rotating over towards the target. Similarly with the left hand, if you look at what the left hand is doing, as the right hand is doing, obviously the left hand is also rotating in that direction. And I like the feeling of it kind of bowing slightly backwards as well. So as the lower arm is rotating, the left hand is actually bowing back, and it's being kind of pulled into and through the impact position to this position outside my left thigh, where I have the feeling of, again, the left thumb pointing at right angles to the target line, and there being a little bit of bow in the back of my left wrist. I'm also trying to have the feeling of both hands coming down, turning, bowing, and being pulled very close to my body. Now, obviously, it would be ridiculous to have the feeling of kind of going into the left trouser pocket here, but that, strangely enough, is quite a good visualization. You never really kind of get there, but if you want a feeling of the hands kind of coming around you rather than going out and away, again, it's this intuitive need to kind of move the ball along the target line, get the hands moving in the same direction as the golf ball, which causes an awful lot of problems in the golf swing. And by drilling your hands in this way, you can actually get them to make the more intuitive, correct movement during what's going to be a very, very fast swing than you would do if you were trying to do this at top speed and relying on your intuition to hit the golf ball straight. Hitting the golf ball straight intuitively will always be kind of a feeling of throwing your hands out in the same direction as the ball, whereas in a golf swing your hands want to be moving around your body to the left when the golf ball's going out towards the target. So once again, all together, I'm going to do the first drill is basically just moving back and then opening hips and shoulders and moving through. Again, I like to get this feeling of getting just outside the left thigh there. Then I will hinge the wrists, same thing, but releasing the wrists at the same time, getting to the same position. Still this feeling of it getting quite close and coming around my body. Once I've got that going on, I'll let the club go a bit up, down, and around the body. Up, down and around the body. You can see that it's now releasing out a little bit more. I'm actually consciously kind of holding this kind of feeling of a bit of bow, so not letting the club roll over at all here. Once I've got it coming up, down, going through, then I will allow the club to actually release over my shoulder. All the time it's the feeling of it going left and over the shoulder. Left and over the shoulder. And first, when I've got all of these feelings together, will I put a golf ball down. And try and get those feelings going with the ball. It's the same thing as Rose is doing really, he's just kind of trying to get what he understands in a golf swing into a feeling, and then trusting the feeling with the golf ball, not trying to actually consciously think through the different steps of the swing when he's got a golf ball in front of him. I hope this helps you. If it does, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so. And if you tap that little bell there, you'll get notifications the next time that I put a video online. As ever, thanks very much for taking your time and looking at it. Get out on the driving range and practice this one. This one really does help. Look forward to seeing you all very shortly. Until then, bye.